Hi, my name is Nathan Tout-Puissant, and today I will be discussing what happened to Jordan Park. Now, for those that weren't aware, Jordan Park was a district that existed in the earlier days of St. Pete. Currently, it is now known as the Carter G. Woodson Museum, honoring the rich African American heritage of St. Pete. Before there was the Carter G. Woodson Museum, there was the Jordan Park Community Center, which stood in the center of a once lively black community south of 22nd Street in St. Petersburg. Seeing as African Americans weren't allowed past that divide, they took it upon themselves to look after each other, providing resources such as education, healthcare, and legal counsel to those within the community, using their different talents to uplift each other. Growing up, this was the case in my community. Most of the residents were kind to each other, and we as a community would hold events almost every week, strengthening our bonds. The activity ranged from games for the kids to food for everyone. Considering the area, there was not much government intervention, so if issues should arise, we would support each other to the best of our ability because we knew what we needed better than anyone. Jordan Park is a very important part of St. Pete's history. It was one of the earliest housing projects. It was a refuge from racist policies in the city, and it served as the center of community for African Americans in St. Petersburg. The main points I will be addressing throughout are the former community, the state of St. Pete back in the day, and the housing projects. Now that you're aware of the topics I will be covering, let's begin with the former housing projects. Jordan Parks was named after Jordan Sr., who was a religious man. He was also a black entrepreneur that donated land to ideally create affordable housing for those within the African American community, according to Jones. The city of St. Petersburg received $1,750,000 from the federal government for the purposes of clearing slums, as well as the creation of the housing projects. This was something Jones also noted. Following the Affordable Housing Initiative was the state of St. Petersburg back in the day. The mindset in St. Petersburg during the early to mid-1900s was one of separate but equal, before it got overturned later on. During this era, downtown St. Pete reinforced Jim Crow laws, furthering the division between North and South St. Pete. An example of this would be the restrictions placed on black individuals in their day-to-day lives. According to a black resident, his neighbors could not borrow from banks because banks would not loan to black people, as noted by Simner. Despite this, they were able to thrive as a community. South of 22nd was a strong African American community. Most of the people who are here in St. Petersburg, particularly the African American community, has passed through Jordan Park in one way or another, which is stated by Johnson. They were very self-sufficient and worked to ease the effects of segregations when in their communities. To surmise, affordable housing, community, and a sense of belonging were what Jordan Parks really brought to St. Pete, because ultimately it gave residents a safe haven, because seeing as the city weren't taking care of them as they needed, they did what they needed to. They established stores. They established the Coliseum. They had prominent black figures, such as singers, come down and sing to the community. And although they weren't able to live north of the divide, they made the best of what they had until times eventually changed. Jordan Park started as a housing project, but it turned into so much more. It provided sanctuary and ultimately a sense of belonging within a scattered community. Although Jordan Park did not meet the initial visions of the founder, it evolved alongside the African American community, allowing them to persevere through tough times. Thank you very much for listening.